I can actually answer this question, kind of both questions together in one, which is that, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. The drone industry hasn't started yet. What do I mean by that? Is like drones are supposed to be autonomous, supposed to be, fleets of these things doing their own thing, without human interaction. That was the dream. That's what we designed. And the fact that it is still 1-to-1, that you have like one operator per drone, means we've essentially failed. We've achieved no economic advantages to date. So, I think that what we have is a remote control helicopter market. We don't really have a drone market. And until we have beyond visual line of sight, one to many, one operator to many vehicles, unattended operations, all that kind of stuff, we don't really have a drone industry. So what's stopping us? It isn't technology. These vehicles have been capable of fully autonomous, unattended operations for a decade or more. What's stopping us is regulation. It is not legal to fly, by and large, beyond visual line of sight, one to many unattended operations. So what would it take to make it legal? And to date, there's been, a lot of, waivers and exemptions and IPPs and experimental things, but nothing that's really deployable at scale. What we need, turns out that the FAA has a process for allowing things to be sort of designated safe and allowed to do things that they otherwise would not be allowed, to consider too dangerous. And that process is called type certification. Type certification says this aircraft is certified airworthy. And to date, really no drone. I think there's only like one small drone that's ever been type certified, and that was like a Puma. It might have been an AeroVironment Scan Eagle, but they're basically military grade. No commercial drone has ever been type certified because it's too expensive. It's like a 10-year process that takes like, $10 million. And so last year, the FAA created a new process called durability and reliability, which is based on a congressional mandate that rather than certifying every component in the drone and locking down the code and ending up with like a 737 MAX fiasco when you can't fix the code, instead they said, let's do it based on performance. You say we're going to, rather than getting to the components, we're going to look at the entire system. If you say it will fly, in these temperatures, in this wind, at this duration, reliably, then just prove it. Give us 400 hours of flight time where it behaved appropriately. If you, give us examples that it flew as the whole system. We don't care what's inside. Just show us that the system does what you say it will do. And that's great because we can do that. So this new process, DNR, is about a year old. We are one of several companies that are going through the process. We're optimistic that it'll be done by September. The first certifications will come out in September. There's the way it works is the FAA says, here's what we want to see in terms of testing and demonstrations. And then they turn to a standards body called ASTM to say, how would you actually do those? And the FAA nominated me to run the standards process. So I run the ASTM DNR working group, and we're going to be done with that in September. The FAA is going to be done with their process in September. And I think you're going to see the first type certified, drones of this class. And we're talking about small, relatively inexpensive ones this year. And what that means is once you have type certification, then you can apply for things like beyond visual line of sight operations. And the FAA is much more likely to grant that on a kind of anywhere, anytime basis rather than the current limits of time and space, which is what the current exemptions and waivers allow.
So that's actually exciting news. Exciting news that I don't think it's been in the last, I'd say, 2 years harder to kind of find that kind of beacon on the hill. Like what are we aiming towards? And I've seen a lot of great people or people who are actually making progress look into more practical kind of solutions for helping move regulation forward. And a lot of that boils down to testing. So that's kind of awesome that you're working on that. And also, it's just awesome that we have that kind of route forward. I think people think that everything boils down to just the remote ID NPRM, and that is a very powerful rule once it becomes from notice of proposed rulemaking to actual rule. Yeah. But it's not everything, right? And also, once that rule is down, there'll still, even though rules are hard to move, there's still opportunities for innovation to render parts of that rule irrelevant.
Yeah. And it's, there's remote ID, there's detect and avoid, there's UTM, there's a lot of things, but it all stands on the foundation of type certification. If the aircraft is considered airworthy, it's a lot easier for the FAA to allow them to do some more innovative things.